Cute. There we go. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Tips for Building a Successful College Counseling Program. Actually, we were calling it successful. We're thinking we're going to go with effective. And hopefully this webinar, this session is going to give you both. I'm joined by a very special guest, Mr. Sanjay Mitchell, whom you will meet very shortly. The check-in question is, what are you feeling today and why? And mixed emotions welcome. In fact, I hold that we are maybe almost always experiencing mixed emotions. I think as kids, we probably experience things purely like joy and sadness. Like I'm just straight up sad. But I think as adults, it's more like, well, I'm feeling this, but I'm also a little bit of that. So I'm curious. We've got tired and wanting to get rejuvenated. So I'm hearing like optimism there, Kathleen. I'm seeing tired and grateful from Casey. Hi, it's great to see you. It was awesome to see you at the conference last week. Relaxed yet excited. Awesome. Well, quick PSAs, and then we're going to get right into the content within 2.5 minutes. First of all, I'm just back from this conference that we in Spokane, the Super ACAC, our regional conference. And I shared these, and like some folks knew about these, but some folks didn't. There was actually a pause for applause when we shared these. So I want to I'm not asking you all to applaud, but these are our monthly email college templates. So, and it's like just basically a Google Drive folder. So if you jump in here, it's April right now, and you want to know, what do I email to my students? Here are a whole bunch of things that you could, like an awesome summer reading list, or, how to research colleges without visiting a campus. And you can just copy and paste these into your, whatever email that you're sending to students. And then Alex, who is moderating today, thanks Alex, set up this cool form here where if you just put in your name and you put in your email, we will auto magically email you with the templates. And so they'll just appear, and then you can be like, great. So trying to make your lives easier. What else do I want to talk about? We've got a course coming up with Stephen Antonoff on how to build a great college list. It's a mini course. I know it's kind of an AP season, but we're trying to catch folks before the summer starts for those who can make it. I'll share the link. And actually, Alex, if you wouldn't mind just sharing the link in the chat, you can learn more about that. It's really cool. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. And if you haven't met Steve, he's a sweetheart. He's been doing this for over 35 years. And I think that's it. Are there any other? I'm going to look at my doc here. I think that's it. I'm showing my behind the scenes doc. I don't care. I think that's it. And there's more stuff to tickle your brain with. But for now, Sanjay, I want to kick it over to you. Let us know. Let the people know, what are we up to today? And just a little bit more. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay, here we go. All right. Greetings, everyone. I'll refrain from the good morning, good evening, because I see that we have some colleagues from Portugal and midnight in Portugal right now. So thank you for joining us. And let me go ahead and share my screen. Give me 1 second to work through technology. Okay. So, all right. So thank you again. So I am Sanjay Mitchell. I'm the Director of Upper School, College and Alumni Programs at Thurgood Marshall Academy here in Washington, D.C. I have been in college admissions counseling for close to 2 decades. I know I started when I was a baby. I was the baby running around telling folks where to apply. And I've been on this side of the desk, the counselor, student-facing counselor side of the desk for the last 13 years. And I started first at the State University of New York at Albany, SUNY Albany, which is my alma mater, where I served as Assistant Director for Undergrad Admissions. During my time, I've had the pleasure, really, of being very involved with PCACAC, which is our Potomac and Chesapeake Regional Association with New York State ACAC. Currently serve on the National Association for College Admissions Counseling, the NACAC board. Served as on the advisory board for George Washington University, for Muhlenberg College, for College of the Holy Cross. Served also on the Common App Advisory Board, was a College Board delegate. So I've done all the things that needed to be done that really helped to sharpen my toolkit for our students, and particularly in my school, and hopefully we'll be able to share some of that tips and strategies with you as you go through your year. So we're only meeting for about an hour today, maybe 45, 50 minutes, somewhere in that neighborhood. So I didn't want to overwhelm you with a whole host of resources and things for you to try and remember. So I really tried to narrow it down to where we are right now in the application cycle when it comes to building a successful or even effective counseling program, and really looking at how we off-ramp our seniors and how we onboard our juniors into this college application process. So let's get started. All right, so what I'm going to cover today is effective strategies for helping students and families review financial aid offers, strategies for mitigating summer melt for your graduates, and 5 things to help your juniors get ready for the college application process. At the end, Ethan and I will talk through a sneak peek at an exciting professional development opportunity for school-based counselors that we'll be sharing some more information about. But I really, as I said, wanted to narrow it down into some really quick bites of information and strategies that you can either implement immediately within your school community or just take and develop and grow as you think about working with your families through these particular challenges as we end the school year 22-23. All right, so let's look at the 5 strategies. So let's look at the effective strategies for helping students and families review financial aid offers. The first thing we want to talk about is how to narrow the financial focus for our students and families. There's so much jargon, so much information, so much paper, so many portals that our students and families have to log in and navigate through, that I want us to really focus on how we help our families narrow down what the focus should be as they make that financial decision and hopefully lead towards May 1. May 1 is Monday. I thought I was ready, but then the week started and realized that we are not ready. So May 1 is looking more like May 15th, is looking more like May 10th for some of our students, and that is okay. The idea is to find the right fit, not to find the first fit. And so definitely want to talk about how to use some of our knowledge and some of our experience to help our students get to that finish line, particularly when it comes to the financial aid process. Then we'll look at a comparison tool. I love this particular tool that we'll be talking about. It is great. It is easy to read. It is navigatable for our families and our students. I love how my students gravitate towards it and really latch on to using it, that they've even shared it with students who are not in my school. And I think that's the important part of the work that we do. We're empowering students to become not only agents for themselves, but also agents for their communities as well. And I think that's an incredible experience that we're seeing from our students using this particular tool. Then we'll talk about financial aid appeals. How do we go about doing that? What are some easy, quick ways that our students and families can go through appealing for more money in order to ensure that they can make those dreams come true? So let's really look at narrowing the financial focus. This looks familiar to a lot of you, right? So you'll see the college, they'll give you your financial aid award letter. Some schools will have it right at the top. Some schools will have it as a separate attachment to the award letter. And it's really breaking down the direct cost and the indirect cost. My families get overwhelmed when they see the total cost of attendance for a particular school. It's usually a very large number. For some of them, it's a number that they can't even imagine themselves because their families don't even make that much money a year in order to say, I'm going to this school that costs this much. And so when I talk about narrowing the focus for our families, I really want them to lean more into the direct cost and not so much the indirect cost. There are a lot of schools, friends, as we know, who will inflate the indirect cost. And so you'll see what we might call okay, that seems reasonable direct costs in terms of tuition and fees and the estimated room and board. And then we'll see the indirect costs, which is sometimes half of that, sometimes a little bit more, upwards of $3,000 to $6,000 in indirect cost. And our families look at that total and it's like, oh no, I can't really do that. And so what has helped my families, friends, is really focusing on the direct costs. These are the things that you absolutely must pay the school. You must pay your estimated tuition and fees, and you must pay your room and board. There's no negotiating around that. However, indirect costs can easily be negotiated because it may not cost you $1,000 to travel, right? If you're traveling internationally or if you're traveling across the country, it might cost you that, but we know there are other ways to negotiate that rather than build it into the cost of going to school or building into something that you have to take out a student loan or a Parent Plus loan or any additional kind of debt resource in order for you to make it a reality. So breaking down the indirect and the direct costs for families is really one of the key ways to help narrow it down. I love doing this for my students and families because it makes, when they look at the direct costs, it makes the dream more real. When we combine it together, it seems far-fetched. And so what I've heard from my students are that, okay, yeah, so this is the target number that I need to be working towards. I need to be working towards 82,665, not 85,008. Well, I'm doing math in my head and that's not working out well, but 85, you know, that 85 or that $90,000 number that sometimes can come with the total cost of attendance. And it allows family to see what they truly need to pay versus what they need to have on hand or save. A lot of times we'll find that our families can get the indirect costs covered through scholarships. They can get the indirect costs covered through opportunities that your campus may have, maybe an alumni emergency fund, maybe a micro grant that your campus can provide to students, maybe just by doing really well and having a really good and robust going away party where you invite your family and friends who are coming to wish you well, to bring gift cards or bring, you know, any kind of token of affection, personal needs. We call it a trunk party. You know, we can fill our trunks with things from Target, from Walmart, from all these other places. That doesn't end up costing the families a lot of money in this bucket. And so we find that narrowing that focus allows for our families to feel really confident about making some of the decisions they make when it comes to the high price tag of college. So let's talk about this comparison tool. It's UAspire. I'm sure some of you have heard of it before, and if you have, yes, I love it. It is free. It is a free tool. And if you have not heard of UAspire, please allow me to introduce you to this wonderful, wonderful tool. So UAspire easily compares multiple award letters side by side. It offers two different versions, a paper version and an Excel spreadsheet. I prefer the Excel spreadsheet because although as much as I love math, you know, I really don't like Excel spreadsheet math. And so it's easy to populate it. You put in the numbers, it spits it out for you, it tells you what you need to do and everything else in between. And it's super easy and manageable for students and families. It creates teaching moments for each type of aid offered. It provides takeaway analysis for students to share with their parents, and it ensures students' comprehension of total costs associated with each college. So what does this look like when it's filled out? It looks like this, right? And so what I love about this tool is that it is customizable to where you can even put in state grants. So for us in Washington, D.C., the state grant is called DC TAG, DC Tuition Assistance Grant. And it only goes to certain institutions, not all. And so here on the state grant DC TAG line, I can put in the $2,500 that a student will receive and leave the rest blank for the schools that he will not receive, right? I can put in the Pell Grant, I can put in his SEOG and the total scholarship amounts that the institution gave him. And also there's another line for other grants. So let's say he's a recipient or she's a recipient of a scholarship elsewhere, an outside organization has provided some support, they can fill it into that bracket and then get an idea as to what the total cost and the full picture and the comparison picture of what their financial aid might look like. What they love the most is the blue bar, as we call it, the estimated bill. So families say, oh, so I have to only pay $1,259 a year. In theory, yes, right? Or I'm getting back a refund of negative $325 a year, or I have to pay $9,000 a year. That feels better than the sticker price of the campus. And this allows for families to compare it across the board, one next to each other, side by side, without ever having to sift through all the paper and trying to do the math, trying to say, did I put the right number here? Did I put the right amount for a student loan? Do I put the right amount for parent loan and all these other particular pieces that are just readily available on one simple spreadsheet. The other part too that I really love about it is this taking a look in the future bracket where I scroll down to my students, because there's a lot of conversation about student loan debt. And I don't want to take out any student loan. I don't want to have maximum amount of debt, all those particulars. And so here is where we look at what is the reality of what might happen when you are finished with college later on down the line. It estimates your monthly payment, right? Assuming a rate of 5%. We know the rate is kind of crazy right now. It could be lower, it could be more, but 5% is a nice sweet spot number. And so it gives them an idea as to how much they are estimated to pay every month once they start to pay back their student loan. So this gives them a full idea as to how much this experience will absolutely cost. As I said, it is a free tool. I love using it because it's simple, it's easy. My students get to see their entire schools laid out. They're excited about the opportunity to kind of compare. They share it with their friends and family. They share this tool also with folks who are not in my school, who are able to do this comparison. And parents have said that this has made the difference between them feeling anxious about a decision and knowing exactly how and where to go. And I know that my colleague has put in the link to the spreadsheet on the chat box. So please feel free to grab it and use it as you see fit. So let's talk about financial aid appeals. So we've gotten our financial aid award letters. We have the comparison tool. We see that there is room for us to improve or add some more things. How do we go about asking for the financial aid offices for more money? And the key parts of this is, how do we empower our students to go ahead and do some of this acts without us having to be there to always drive it? Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be there. We absolutely should. But if you're working with a large caseload, is there a way that you can send some template out, a website you can show them, somewhere where the students can plug and play and just put in the information so that way they can manage the process for themselves as well as with their parent? And yes, it is called Swift Student. And again, my colleague will go ahead and put in the website in the chat box. So what I love about Swift Student is that it has templates for every kind of financial need or every kind of nuances that might happen for your families and for students that they will require additional financial aid or appeal for money from colleges. And it's really simple. They plug in certain information in certain spots, and then a form letter is presented to them for them to either copy and paste or even print off and mail off to an admissions office to say, I need more money. It is simple, it is easy, it demystifies the process of how do I beg for more money? And we know that for a lot of our families, the idea of asking for money, especially when the schools have already been so generous, is kind of foreign to us. It feels icky, it doesn't feel comfortable, we don't know how to do it. This form allows for them to do it very easily, very safely, and they have the confidence in knowing that the language is what college admissions, what financial aid offices need in order to support their appeal letters, right? If this doesn't work, the next resource is on the college essay guide, how to write financial aid appeal letter. You can go ahead and plug some of that off of the website and just share with your families in terms of how to go ahead and appeal for more financial aid. But I really love the Swift Student because it is Swift. That name Swift Student is not just, a moniker. It is really Swift. And students and families can generate several different appeal letters in one sitting and just mail them off to the college's financial aid office or their financial aid counselor if they know who that person is, and get the support they need in order to ensure that they're making the right financial decisions. All right, are you with me still? All right. So let's talk about strategies for mitigating our summer melt for our graduates. And within this part, we're going to really define the challenge and define what the challenge of summer melt is. We're going to look at 3 tips. Tip 1, creating a communication plan. Tip 2, creating ownership over that gap between when you graduate from college and when you're from high school and when you enroll into college. We're going to talk about how we build in that agency and that ownership in our students and families to ensure that we don't melt in the summer. And tip 3, providing exposure. How do we ensure that our families and our students are exposed to this idea of college so that way the summer doesn't, melt away? So here is summer melt. And so the key thing that I want to highlight here is that 10 to 20% of students who enroll in college do not end up attending in the fall. And we know that number is greater for students who are in underserved and historically excluded populations. We know exactly what happens when, they're away from you. They don't have the ability to walk into your offices as frequently. They are struggling to find answers. A lot of colleges' websites are so heavy with the language that they may not be familiar with. There's so much happening in the summer, family responsibilities, family guilt, especially if you're a first-generation college student. This idea of moving away from your family, moving away from your community, all of this contributes to what we call a summer melt, right? And what we have found and what researchers have found is that just 2 to 3 hours of additional support in the summer can help to mitigate that melt that happens with our students. Now, not everyone has the ability to work in the summertime. Not everyone has the ability to really create spaces to build in those 2 to 3 hours. But here are some ways that we can do that. We can think about creating those 2 to 3 hours without actually physically being present for those 2 to 3 hours. And the first way is by creating a communication plan. Surveys. I love the Google Form surveys. It is free. It is easy. Students and families love to navigate through it. And what I do with this survey is I create a list of questions that students need to answer. And the first one in particular is around summer contact information. Where are you in the summer that I can reach you? We know that when graduation happens, students either move out of town. Some students live with a different parent. Some students may be spending the summer with a sibling, with an aunt, with their grandparent. They might be out of the country. They might be abroad. They might be away. There's a whole host of different scenarios that might happen in the summer. But what I do with this survey is, where are you? How can I reach you? How can I find you if there's an issue or there's a concern? How can I find you to keep sending you information over the summer? What is your college email address? We want to get them into the habit of checking their college email address. We know that once they've become graduates of our high school, colleges will start to email most information to their college email addresses. So let's start getting them in the habit of checking that address. What's your orientation date? What's your moving date? Did you get your student bill? Are all the scholarships and awards that you were supposed to receive, is it on your bill? What is missing? Who do we need to call to figure out this scholarship from the Kiwanis Club is not present on your bill? This scholarship or this grant money from DC is not on your bill. How do we know that to make sure we can mitigate and get these issues fixed before you go on campus in August? How best way to do this, in my opinion? Identify a team member who will be available to support students over the summer. If you will be that team member, great. If you're not, who else on your team or in your school is available over the summer and can do some of these light touch points with students? Is it the registrar? Is it your principal and assistant principal? Is it another counselor in your office? Who can be the person to just scroll through this list and just check in with Johnny, with Baby, with student X, student Y, and say, hey, we're just checking to see how your summer is going. And if you've gone to your orientation date was June 5th, did you attend? The second one is July 7th. Are you planning to attend? If not, how can we help you get there, right? Is it a matter of, can we provide transportation? Can we talk to the college about getting you to this orientation space? We just want to make sure that you are not falling through the cracks and you have enough support as you possibly need in order to get from point A to point B. Create a going away event. Students love food. You know they love food. So create a going away event for a picnic or a barbecue or something that allows for them to gather together so you can physically see and talk to them about what their plans are, right? Did you go to your orientation that was in the middle of June? No, I didn't go. Okay, talk to me about that. Why didn't you go? When is the next one? What is the plan? How can we support that? How can we help to make sure that you get from point A to point B? If you did go to your orientation, how was it? Did you get your class schedule? Are you excited? Are you looking forward to going back in August? What are you looking forward to the most? Who did you meet? You know, those kinds of questions and conversations will definitely get them in the spirit of thinking, okay, I'm definitely going back to college because someone is now invested in me and someone is asking me questions about the things that I know that are important to make sure that I definitely secure my seat and go back when August comes around. July is a great time to do that picnic, friends. It's enough time away from high school where they're like, why is Miss Teacher and why is my counselor emailing me again? I'm done. Don't email me. But it's enough window where there's a runway available for you to help mitigate and fix any challenges before August starts. So generally the middle of July to around the end of July before they go back is a nice smooth space for you to do this this gathering, so that way you can collect enough information from them. And if you're an organization that has an alumni program or alumni support, it allows for you to really talk about or talk to them about what your alumni program consists of and how best you can support them throughout their time. Send frequent check-ins and touch points. Check-ins don't have to be, hey, how are you? How are you doing? A check-in can be, wow, check out this article on moving away to college. Check out these sales at Target. Check out these deals that are for college students at Bed Bath & Beyond. Shout out to Bed Bath & Beyond, you know, we'll miss you. Check out these deals at Walmart. Check out anything that is going on just to keep them engaged. So that way they'll see your email, they'll see your communication. And sometimes a student and a family might be having a challenge. They may not necessarily know that they can reach out, but when they see an email from you, they're like, oh my God, I just remembered, I can call Mr. Mitchell, or I can just email my counselor and they should be able to help me figure this out because I'm stuck. So definitely keeping a presence in their inbox and in their text messaging. If they have Instagram and your school has an Instagram account, sending out these notices through Instagram, wherever you feel and you find that your students and families communicate the most, finding ways to be in that space all the time is definitely something that will help to mitigate that summer melt, because as soon as they see your name, as soon as they see your school, it might trigger something for them to reach out to you. And sometimes that is the difference between I'm not going versus I'm just going to go. And so we want to make sure that we are providing as much opportunity for exposure as possible. Then we talk about creating student, family, and ownership, right? So we know we have those students and those families who are super gung-ho. They are, just give me my checklist, just tell me what it is that I need to do and we will get it done. That is also a mechanism also to avoid summer melt, right? So I create this checklist for our students that breaks it down by month and have things like pay your enrollment deposit by May 1, right? Share your graduation and next steps with your families and friends. Graduate. Right, confirm your orientation date, review your courses catalog to see the courses that they have to offer for freshmen. What are summer enrichment experiences that you can participate in? Talk about your course registration. Have these as checklist items so that way they can be accountable to themselves and know exactly where they're going along the way. If in June they realize that, oh, none of these items have been checked, that might be a way for them to reach out to you and say, hey, I haven't done any of the things on my list. That's also a way for you to reach out to your community and say, hey, it's June. Did you remember these checklist items? It is July. Have you completed these checklist items? One of the key things on here too is to make sure that you have signed up for your courses by going to your orientation and doing that and doing your course registration and schedule. I sometimes like to see my students' schedule for the first semester, particularly my students who are going into STEM. So for example, I may have some students who are going into neuroscience or biochemistry major because they're aspiring to be a doctor or a medical researcher or a nurse or something along those lines. And we know the traditional program for students going into that field, first semester is usually intro to calc, intro to chem, or intro to bio, intro to physics, an ELA class, and then another elective. For some of our students, that might be too heavy, especially transitioning out of high school, where they may never have looked at math all year because they were finished with math in the junior year. Or we know that summer melt not only happens with them not going to school, but with them forgetting a lot of math content, right? And a lot of science content. So seeing that course registration and schedule allows me to say, son, you may not want to take all these courses in one semester. Let's talk about how we space it out so that way you can have a successful start and not feel overwhelmed that first semester, so much so that you're like, I can't do this or I want to drop out. Especially for our most vulnerable populations. We want to set them up for success from the very beginning, so that way they can have a smooth transition and not spend too much time trying to climb up a hill. We want to definitely make sure that they're starting out great and encourage them to spend time with family, especially students who are really family oriented or from areas that are so community and communally based. We want to make sure that you are carving out time to spend time with your family, so that way you'll build memories that will sustain you while you are in college, while you're going through your first semester. When you're missing home, you can scroll through your phone. You can look at the times you had over in the summer. You can talk about what you did. And so you still feel connected to your family because you spent a lot of time with them, and not feel like, oh man, I'm in college and I missed out on something. And so definitely encouraging that type of participation and that type of energy will encourage you to mitigate the summer melt from your students. Last tip is to provide exposure. So one of the things that we love to do is we really love to curate our students' college visit experiences. And one of the ways in which we do that is through the scavenger hunt. It is not heavy lift at all. It is so light. It is very breezy. We create a scavenger hunt and we send them on the local campuses in the Washington, D.C. area. So we'll have some students go to George Washington and we'll have some students go to Howard University. They don't have to be attending either of those universities in the fall, but the important thing is that they're traveling on those campuses to figure out where key offices are that they will need to be familiar with in their freshman year. So on the scavenger hunt, they have to find the bursar's office. They have to find the academic advisement office. They have to find where the library is. They have to find where the Office of Multicultural Student Affairs is. They have to find where the financial aid office is. If you have an issue with residential life, where is the residential life office? And we just let them go on the campus, sometimes in pairs, sometimes in small groups of about 3 to 4 students. And we say, these are the offices and these are the spaces you need to find. We partner with the university where we have someone there to meet them, who will give them a brief overview of what the bursar's office is, what they do, where money is, all these other particular things, and they have to take a photo. The idea behind it is that it builds confidence and familiarity with key campus offices. So when you're a first generation student and you get a bill and you're like, I don't know what to do with this, you don't feel overwhelmed because you're asking mom and mom is like, I don't know what that is. Dad is like, I ain't go to college, I don't know what that is. So knowing the language and knowing the vocabulary will allow for students to say, okay, I remember when I did the scavenger hunt, they told me if I had a bill, I needed to go to the bursar. So let me find the bursar's office. Let me figure out where that is. It also allows and encourages students to navigate the space on their own. We know that some students are not bringing their families to college. So how do we ensure that they can walk on the campus by themselves for the first time and not feel like a fish out of water? And so this experience allows for them to try on and feel the college as an individual, as a student on their own, without the lens of us as counselors being there and without the lens of their parents being there. And as I said, it demystifies a lot of the terms that they're going to need to become familiar with, especially if they're on a really large campus where they have to figure out how to get through a swarm of people, especially when they're coming from a school where everybody knew who they were, right? And everybody knew their name. So how do they go about making sure that they can build that comfort level while in that particular space? All right, and so let's talk about our junior year. Ethan, anything you want to share with us while I take a water break?
I'm just so grateful for, again, I know I said this to you this morning, but I just love how clear, how practical. And a thing that I admire about your presentation, Sanjay, is you're not packing in too much. It's like, this is a pace that I can understand. I go so fast in my presentations, and I'm just appreciating the pace at which you're delivering this. So that's not useful for anybody else except for me to just say I heart Sanjay. So sorry, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Ethan. You know, I am a counselor slash teacher slash educator by trade. So, you know, you learn how to pace your words so that way folks are following along. And unfortunately, this is Zoom, so I can't do my check-in just to make sure everybody is, you know, attuned and seeing quizzical faces as to where folks are lost. But let's continue. In particular, this last section around how to ramp up your juniors in preparation for the college application process. So we'll look at a couple of things. We'll look at programming before the end of the school year. We'll look at how to utilize summer quiet times. We'll look at college essay workshop or workshops. We'll look at mapping out college tours for your juniors. And lastly, we'll look at creating a summer how-to guide to help build that agency within your juniors or rising seniors, whichever language you call them at the time, to be able to expose themselves and participate in this process from very earlier on. So let's get right into it. Programming before the end of the year, Junior Jumpstart Program. This is such a light touch for juniors, right? It's something that you can have in the fourth quarter. Usually for us, we do our Junior Jumpstart right after AP exams. So it's that sweet spot between the middle of May until about June when we're out. And this gives us an opportunity to do very light curated touches with our students around aspects of the college application process that they need to become familiar with or need a refresher on. So we're talking about things like looking at your Common App, creating a Common App account, start looking at college essays, start looking at the SAT and how you submit your scores and all these particular things. Start looking at how you research a college. What are questions you would ask college reps? And these are, again, very light touches that doesn't require you to do anything more than a 30-minute. Check each of these topics out, and it can be a topic you have for a week that you touch point with the juniors about. It can be a topic that you have per day, depending on the time or how much effort you want to have with the students. And really, it is not anything that students need to deliver. It's not any deliverable. It's really just getting the language in their brains before they go off into the summertime. Creating a junior profile where students can start filling out information about themselves and their families and their aspirations. All of those light touches can happen through what we call a Junior Jumpstart program. One of the other things too that I love is creating senior and parent panel and senior parent and alumni panels. These are some of my former students, and I love when I do this. Our alumni come back, and they come back specifically to talk to our juniors just about what they did in their senior year to get ready for college, right? What they did in the summer before. I have a parent on there who can share a parent perspective, not just to the students, but also to other parents as well. And it's refreshing to hear sometimes students come back, man, you know, I didn't really utilize my senior year the way how I should. I kind of slacked off, you know, I did all the things. And then, you know, you have some seniors some alumni who will come back and say, man, you know, my senior year was my year to shine. Not only did I go through the college application process, but it was my best GPA ever. This is some of the strategies. This is what I used. And this is how it's helped me to become a great first-year college student or a second-year college student or whatever part of the college experience they're in their alumni journey, right? And so this is very light touch. This can be conversations that happen over lunch. This can be conversations that happen in the afternoon. For those of you who may have like half-day schedules in May because of exams, this might be a great opportunity to utilize some of that time. Alumni generally are back around the middle of May, and they're always coming back to our campus or maybe to your campus. And they're like, oh man, college was great, or oof, college was a lot. And so this is an opportunity for them to kind of share those experiences with the juniors and get them excited about the process coming up in their senior year. Summer quiet times. So one of the things that I do in my summer quiet time is I create a college application bootcamp, and I do it in August. And here's the fun part about my college application bootcamp. All these sessions, and this is an old one, so some of the topics aren't not really relevant right now, but the spirit of it is the same. I don't run any of the workshops. I don't run any of them. All of the workshops are ran by professionals. We're professionals, but all of the workshops are ran by admissions professionals. So the brag sheets, letter of recommendation, Naviance, Common App. I have folks from the Common App, from Naviance, we're now Maya Learning. I have folks from those agencies come and talk to our students about how to create your Common App, how to work through your Common App, how to build it, right? I have colleagues who come to talk about finding the right fit or putting your best foot forward. One of the beautiful things now that we have discovered is how to utilize technology to get some of these messages across the board, how to go about doing a Zoom with my colleagues in California, jumping on and talking to my students in DC about, applying to women-centered colleges. So my colleague at Scripps will come and do that session for us. Applying to male-centered colleges, that I have my colleague at Hamden Sydney come and talk to us, zoom in to our students talking about the benefits of doing those particular things. We do this boot camp in August. It is a nice quiet time. Students who have summer employment, they're usually wrapped up right around the first week and end of July, first week in August. There's this quiet time, this lull between when their summer activities are over and when the school year is getting ready to start. And so we generally do some of that session during that time. And my team and I, we don't do any of these presentations because we want our students to build relationships with college admissions folks. We want them to hear from them directly about how best to do this. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to have relationships across the board with so many different admissions offices that they're ready and willing to support in this intentional work for our students. Next, we do summer one-on-one meetings. I love doing the summer one-on-one meetings because it gives us more breathing room and more space to really have some robust conversations. They're not running off to class. They're not distracted by their peers in the building. Families can generally join us, especially if we have it at amenable times for them. We can really talk through, what are you thinking about with college? What are your plans? What are you thinking about with career? What is the objective for your senior year and post-senior year? So it gives us an opportunity to really have more robust dialogue without time being a factor for us. And so that's some of the ways that we've been able to use that summer quiet time in order to get our juniors ramped up for the application process. Next, we talk about some college essay workshops. Ethan, anything you want to share here with us?
Well, share what you do first, and then if folks have questions about college essay stuff, I can answer their questions, but share what you do. Sure.
So one of the things that I love about doing college essays, as an English major, I love words. I tell people all the time that Twitter is not my friend because I speak in paragraphs, I don't speak in phrase. And so that's really been a tricky thing, but also I just love the ways in which I have been able to pull my students into thinking about themselves without thinking about themselves. So as we know, the personal statement for a lot of our students is the first time they're really writing about themselves. They're really doing this creative approach to writing and to thinking. It's not the staccato paragraph, 5-paragraph format. It can be anything, right? One of the activities that I love with them when we talk about the essay is I have two things that I love to do with them. The first one is I ask an essay question that says, I am a bird, ... And they usually look at it and they go, I am a bird. I said, yes. Write an essay or just anything, just do any writing from the perspective of being a bird. And they're like, Oh, and I was like, yes. So imagine yourself as a bird flying through your community or perched somewhere or anything like that. Just tell me about your day. Tell me what you're seeing, what you're experiencing, what you're doing. And what they're uncovering in that activity and what they don't realize is that they're actually describing themselves, but they're not talking about themselves. So it's easy for them to talk about their community, their surroundings, their siblings, their friends, their family, etc., what they're doing, what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, without saying, I am experiencing this, I am doing this, I am doing that, etc., etc. It's such a neat way for them to really start unlocking a lot of their experiences that are so bottled up in their brain that they have no idea how to get it out. And so some great writings have come out of that. Some exceptional personal statements have come out of that. I had a student who wrote about the I'm a bird example, and who described himself flying over his community, looking at all the injustices that are happening, from the crime, from the violence, from poverty, from all of those particular things, and how he as a bird would like to influence and impact that, right? And so I said, this is your personal statement. This is it. Take everything else out and focus on that one line that you talk about how you want to change your community, and use that to drive your personal statement. That is not something he would have ever thought about, because he was thinking about so many other different things, so much of the other trauma that he's gone through. And I was like, no, lean into your strength and your power, and how you can use your strength and your power to impact your community, because your community is what it is. So here is a great way to do it. Another example that I have with them is I created a list of writing prompts, and I say, take any of the writing prompts, take any one of them and finish it out into a story. And I tell my students to be as creative as possible. I don't care about language. I don't care about words, right? If you want to throw in a colorful word here or a colorful word here or there, go ahead and do it. The idea is not for it to be perfect. The idea is for it to get out of here and get on paper. Once it's on paper, we can edit and we can tweak and we can fix. Sometimes when our students do that, all of their short answer responses come out of it. You know, the most popular short answer question that is asked is why X college and why this major? And sometimes the students are like, I don't know, I just want to major in that. And so when we do these creative writing and these, thinking writing activities, it pulls out of them, I want to do this because of this, or I am interested in it. But it builds in from the stories that they're writing from those writing prompts. And students love these activities. I've been fortunate enough to work with CEG, where we talk about our values assessment and looking at our junk drawer and having a student write a beautiful essay about a pair of sneakers that we were, wondering where he was going with it. And when we realized that sneakers actually was given to him by his grandmom, who passed away. And so the sneakers represents her and represents his desire to always keep moving and driving and doing well. Because it was something that one of the memories that he has of his grandmother buying him the sneakers. And so the grandmother didn't become the focal point of the personal statement, neither did the sneaker, but the symbolism of what that meant in his desire to go off to college. And that was an incredible essay for him. And he is now working at a Fortune 500 company, making way more money than I ever could make as a counselor. And so I'm excited for him and his family in terms of that trajectory. Ethan?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I hear you talking about, and a thing that we're talking a lot about with students, is finding ways to help them express and explore their many identities. So, one of the exercises that we're using these days, I don't have too much time because I know we've only got like 9 minutes left. Let me just show it real quick. Is this social identities exercise. People are going to get mad at me because I'm like, well, actually, this is the wrong slide that I'm sharing. I need to share this one. There we go. Okay. That's the email, the follow-up email that we're going to send you all tomorrow. Here it is. So one of the things that we'll ask students to write about is, what are the different identities, all the different ways that you express yourself and communities that you're a part of. And it's in helping students express and explore these different identities that they can start to see that, oh, wow, I'm so much more than this one story or this one challenge or this one experience. So that's one that I'm really super excited about. Somebody asked in the chat about workshops. And I'll put a link in the chat if you're interested in workshops. We've got workshops for schools with budget and also schools with no budget, because we've got these summer boot camps that are coming up. So I'll put links in the chat on that.
All right. Awesome, Ethan. Wait, do I need to go back to sharing or?
I'm sorry, I messed up.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. I just want to make sure I know what I'm doing. All right, here we go. Oh, wait, no, here we don't go. Oh, yes, here we go. All right, so the last thing is really mapping out college tours for our students. And so just really quickly, because I didn't even realize that we were going over time. You know, my mentor always says to me, you know, when you present, you need to do three things: be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. And so I am not living up to his advice right now. So let me really be brief with this particular point. Summertime is a great time for students to really explore colleges. And I tell students, particularly students who may not necessarily have the means to have a family member drive them around for days, visiting colleges in the Northeast or in the South or in a particular state, start local. You'll be surprised how many students have never visited the college that is down the street from them or just the next town over, or a few metro rides up or down, you know, wherever they're living. So start local, but help them by creating and curating an experience for them. Partner with admissions offices that are locally to say, hey, I have 5 juniors that are coming to visit in the summertime. What's a great day for them to visit? Thursday, June 5th? Perfect. So I'll tell these 5 juniors to come and visit. Can you meet with them? Can you talk with them? Just give them a really curated experience on a tour, because usually summer is a lull time for admissions offices. So there's not a ton of traffic. And so counselors can spend some time talking to them, can talk about, you know, some of the things that we have been encouraging them to do, but definitely they don't do because, you know, they hear from us all the time. And so definitely kind of building some of that into it. It builds incentives and excitement along the way, right? Make it a challenge. Give gift cards. Students love Chipotle. I don't know what it is, but they really do love Chipotle. So get them some Chipotle gift card, get them Chick-fil-A gift card, things that they can see themselves building up to. The idea is less about them getting the gift cards and really more about them exposing themselves to college campuses and to the conversation around college, thusly being more engaged and robust when they come back in their senior year, right? Especially if you're working in a population where sometimes getting them to the application itself feels like you're herding cats or you're navigating traffic in Midtown Manhattan to just get to one space. And you're like, everybody come this way. You need to go this way, right? So to mitigate all of that frustration and to avoid burnout for you, right? That's the key part here. How do we make sure that you're building an efficient process that is so self-sustaining that you have some breathing room, you have some time to just be down and just chill out and do what you need to do in the summer to replenish, but also they're learning and they're engaging and they're exposing themselves at the same time, right? So that's part of this, building some of these systems and processes and mechanisms right now, so that way they are still getting the knowledge, but the knowledge isn't always driven by you. And so how do you kind of leverage and work smarter, not harder, in this process for you and also for your students? All right, and then the summer how-to guides. That's also another way too of really creating space for you to breathe over the summertime, as well as encouraging them to take some ownership of this process and kind of do some of the labor of the work of finding out things on their own. So we created a website. I created a website for our counseling program from Google Sites, because we are a Google school. And it has this really quick how-to guides. And it's a variety of different things that are on the how-to section. And we just send them out every week. We send a different kind of how-to guide. What I generally do is, you know, Gmail allows you to kind of schedule send. So I'll write an email one day when it's a quiet time in the office, schedule, send it out for different points of the week, and just have these quick things go out. How to fill out your Common App, how to research college, how to apply to flying programs, and even something as granular as creating diagrams as to how to walk through the Common App application, whether using your phone or on the computer, how to make sure that you're checking the right boxes. I also create the forms for them, especially like the school forms where it asks like your counselor name, address, email address, yada, yada, yada. Create those forms and put them in the how-to guides. So that way students can start building their own agency in the application process as well. So that's another way to help your juniors really get excited about this. And my colleague will put in there the CEG guides as well. There's a different set of guides that you can use to help support your students in terms of, and families in getting to that next step and really getting excited. We would love when our seniors come back in the building. They're like, okay, I'm ready. I know my 10 schools, because we only want them to do 10. I know my 10 schools. I have my list ready. I have a draft of my personal statement to go. I've visited some colleges. I'm ready to meet with the college reps that are coming. Let's go. And that is always our ultimate dream and our ultimate goal, but sometimes it just doesn't get there. But I think some of these tips and strategies that we have in place will definitely help to get a few there, so that way it kind of trickles off to everyone, and then everyone gets excited and feel ready for the application process. All right, so I hope these were helpful. And again, the idea is not for you to, I didn't want to overwhelm and put too much information, but just some bite-sized things that you can take and use immediately, or things that you can say, oh, that's a great idea. Let me figure out how I design this better for my community, or how I take this tool and build it in for the students with whom I serve. And so it's a great way to kind of mitigate your stress, mitigate your, build up your ability to build in your self-care, build up your ability to build agency within your students, whether they're walking out the door as graduates or getting ready to transition over into their senior year. And so I thank you all for just tuning in. Ethan, did we want to talk about the live course coming up in June?
Yeah, let's do it. I'd love to say a few words about it, and I'd love to maybe have you just share a little bit about maybe the syllabus. Let me just share my screen again.
Sure.
Essentially, we've got, Sanjay's put a ton of work into this course. It's over 4 weeks. It's happening in June. We kind of went back and forth trying to figure out a time. We're like, you know what, let's do it in that time when folks are, I mean, I know some of us are like, I want to take off during the summer. We're hoping to do it in a time when it's a little bit more, things are a little bit more chill. But some of the things that I'm excited about are, in particular, talking about ways to build relationships with college and admissions reps. That's one of the things that I really admire you about you, Sanjay, is the way that you've developed relationships with colleges and the way that you've built systems to make things easier. I really love the ease that you bring to that. And there's a commitment to self-care that I feel in you, that I feel like runs through this whole thing. And I feel like as somebody who's like been bad about it, but who's gotten better at it, I'm still learning about that. So I'm so grateful for those aspects. And I just love both the depth and the breadth of all that you bring. So Alex can share a link about this, but will you just maybe walk through the syllabus real quick for just a minute, Sanjay, to let folks know some of the things that we're covering or that you're covering on the course?
Sure. Thanks, Ethan. And so if we take a look at the syllabus, and I'll try to make sure that we can all see it. So one of the things that I wanted to do with this course is really taking your college counseling program from good to great, right? Or from great to exceptional. And so really looking at not just the nuts and bolts of the process, but really how do you create a more efficient process to make sure that, you know, you can build in time for self-care and students can also build in their agency. I've said it so many times, but that's really my biggest goal. In doing this work for 13 years, you know, I've grind and I've grind and I've grind, staying in the office, getting in the office at 7 a.m., leaving at 6 p.m. Almost every day, to the point where I was like, no, there has to be a way to automate and systematize this process so that students and families and myself can get some breathing room to do it. And so we look at strategies for engaging your 9th and 10th graders, ways to design an equitable and efficient post-secondary college counseling program, tips for building out an alumni program. We are so proud of our alumni and our alumni program that we've built, and I'm ready to share with you how we've gone about doing that. Then we will look at how to gauge the necessary data points for college purposes, how to glean and gather that in a way that is plug and play versus always having to collect the same information every year. How to maximize the value outside of your high school profile. for a number of us, the ability to sit and write glowing 3 to 5 page recommendation letters or 2-page recommendation letters is not possible. So how can we definitely put some value in our high school profile that speaks to our community and speaks to our students in very intentional ways? How to help students bring their authentic self to list building, right? Like, let's not create a list because somebody told you that's the best school, but how do you help students guide towards creating a list that really speaks to who they are as an individual and how they ultimately hope to grow while they're in college? Strategies for ensuring FAFSA completion. We know that if you have not completed the FAFSA, it's very likely that you probably won't go to college because that's where the money resides, Methods to engage alumni after 2 years of high school graduation, building a scholarship database for students to be able to use and add information in year after year. And then lastly, how to really take care of yourself and your professional development in this process and in this work, right? Part of what has made me super successful, and I don't even know if I'm successful, I know I do a very good job, but part of what makes this work easy for me is that I've built a professional community that I can rely on both sides of the desk, even with CBOs, with folks who work in industry, like an Ethan. How did I find time to build this and also be able to take care of myself and enjoy and rejuvenate and be spirited in this work year after year, day after day? And so I really hope you'll consider joining us for these sessions. I'm excited about it. I've been working hard on creating the sessions. Ethan can share more about how to register, how to get involved, how to join us, but just something for you all to think about as you plan to get ready for summer and kind of build up your toolkit in preparation for next school year and in preparation for just the work period.
That's beautifully thorough, and thanks, and yet succinct. And there's like Alex put a link in the chat, and we're doing like an early bird rate. I hope that y'all will join us. I'm excited to learn a lot. I will be writing sidecar and sort of adding in, bits and pieces here, but a lot of it is stuff that I sort of have volunteered in college counseling offices and worked as what I would call like an associate counselor, but there's so much that you have insight on, Sanjay, that I don't. And one of the questions that Alida asks is, how long did it take you to create this program you're directing?
Ooh, okay. So I inherited the program, and when I inherited the program, it was very foundational. And so it took me about 3 to 5 years of intentionally planning to design it to be a program that can essentially run itself. I wanted to create a college counseling program that didn't necessarily rely on me being present. And if I decided to leave or if something happened, the saying, let's say you got hit by a bus, knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen, students and community won't feel, jaded or jilted or not be able to have the resources. So it was intentionally designed by me as a way to ensure that, one, we build agency in our students and our community. It is a school-wide college counseling program. So all of our resources and all of our methods are not just driven by my office. Everyone in the school knows exactly what's happening at any point in time of the year that can support students, because we know students have relationships with a variety of different folks within our building, right? It took, 3 to 5 years to build it to a space where I can then step back a little bit and be able to now bring the external community to our campus. So being able to join a NACAC in a very robust way, being able to do more college visits, do more college tours, all of those particulars was super important for me. So that way, when I go anywhere in any college campus and I say Thurgood Marshall Academy, people are like, oh, we know you, we've heard of you. And I'm like, yes, because I've made sure that you've heard of me. I've made sure you know who I am. And I make sure who my babies are, because, you need to know who they are because they're exceptional and they're talented and they're bright. And so I don't want you to hear about us when you're first getting an application. I want you to see an application and go, oh, that's one of Sanjay's kids. We know him and we know the school. And that was important for me because as students who don't have access, right, and working in a community where there isn't any access, that is important. We know that that is some of the really neat ways that our students and our voices can be heard and amplified when you're building these relationships throughout. But you have to build your foundation first, so that when they come and they see it, they're like, oh, I'm bringing my other friends to come and see it too. Another great example of that, our first college fair had 25 colleges, and it wasn't even 25 colleges. It may have been like maybe 10 colleges and around 10 to 15 different community-based organizations, to our last in-person college fair at 110 schools there.
Wow.
And that was within, again, 3 to 5 year growth period for our program. So yes, yeah.
Well, there's a whole separate session on how to set up a college fair. I mean, obviously not every school can set up a college fair, but that feels inspiring. Jay Cole asks, what suggestions do you have for how first-gen students can stay connected with their families while away at college?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jay. And hi, Jay. One of the ways, technology has made it so easy for us to stay and keep in touch. I recommend to my students to build in a time where you're having a Zoom conversation with your family at least once a week, where they can see you, you can see them, right? So it becomes part of your calendar. It becomes part of a routine that happens. Maybe Sunday at 3 o'clock, I always Zoom with my mom, or, I Zoom with my siblings, etc. But I tell them to set a time limit on that. Your Zoom should be anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. Get in, get out, because anything longer, you'll get so emotionally attached, especially as a first-gen student, that you want to go back home or you want to bring them here with you. So get in, get out. This is my updates. I'm alive. I'm well. I'm eating. Freshman 15 is happening. Everything is going strong, and then zoom out, right? So you can become a part of the community. Having photos and having, group chats and group messages, finding strategic times to go home. I tell my first-gen students, do not go home every week, even though you live close to the campus, because then you'll become detached from the campus. So setting your time, I'm only going home during Thanksgiving, or I'm only going home for winter break, or wherever there is a long enough break, that's when I'll come home. And I'm coming home for these specific things and for these specific people, and then go back. The other thing too that I've been working on, Jay, but especially with our first generation students, is how to recognize guilt in going away to college and in getting experience and exposure that family members and friends are not able to get. So how do you make sure that you aren't feeling guilty about, enjoying this experience that they can or won't have? And so just really talk, and it's individual, right? Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But really talking to them about how to mitigate that and how to help address it and how to coach your families through it as well, right? How to tell mom, do not call me every time something happens at home because I'm not able to help. Helping them to utilize resources that are around them, helping students to become advocates for themselves, but also for their families as well. I know that was a long answer, but hopefully that was super helpful.
I hope so. I mean, I know we're over time, but I'm going to do one more. This is a very specific one. It might be a quick one. Do you feel like on a financial aid appeal letter that a student should put in a specific money ask?
Yes. But here is the trick to that. Do not put in the ask for the entire gap that you have. That won't work. And so there are some colleges who will tell you that if you do an appeal, the most we can do is $3,000 additional, or $2,000 to $3,000, or whatever number it is, right? And you can then decide if it's worth doing an appeal, if the extra $3,000 will make a difference or not. Always come to the table. It's a negotiation. Remind your families it is a negotiation, not an act. It's a negotiation. So come to the table with something. One of the strategies that have worked for me is I will say to a college rep, or I'll have my students say to the financial aid office, my family, we have let's say a $15,000 gap. My family can come up with half of that through different scholarships, through different agencies, through working or whatever it is. We can come up with that. How close can you get us to that half? How close can you get us to where we have a number that we can work with? My families with high EFCs, 10,000 seems to be a sweet spot number that the family can afford per year. And so I'll say to them, my family can only afford up to 10,000. How close can you get me to that 10,000? And sometimes the financial aid office will say, yeah, we can get you to that 10,000, or we can get you to 12 here. And then later on, we can figure out what might happen down the road, etc. But don't go with the intention of it being zero, because it will never be zero. It will never be, I'm going to wipe this gap that you have clean and bring you whole at zero. That will never happen. And always come to the table with some good faith and something that shows that you are also putting some, what is it, skin in the game towards paying for your education.
Awesome. Thank you, Sanjay. This was awesome. So practical, so specific. I'm grateful that y'all hung out with us this whole time.
Yeah.
Have a beautiful, beautiful night. And we all will follow up with the resources and everything. And again, Sanjay, I'm just so grateful to you.
All right. And thank you all. Thank you all for sticking with us, and hope to see you all soon. Don't forget NACAC Baltimore in September. Please come and join us. Can't, leave without doing my NACAC board duties. So come on and hang with us and get some more learning, and say hi, hello, when you come out to Baltimore in September. Take care and have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, day, week, weekend, everything in between.
Bye, y'all.